You're tuned into SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.
Hello and welcome to SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network. I'm Rob Williams. He is Craig McMichael, and we are proudly presented by HD Law. Hewitt Diamonduras Law is here for you in time of personal injury, insurance claim, whatever you need. You are a real person. You are not just a number on a stack. They're going to get to know you. They're going to build a relationship with you, just as Craig and I will here on SEC Sunday Night. HD Law, SC.com. Talk to Brad or Dean and tell them that you heard about them right here on SEC Sunday Night. Now, we know that a lot of coaches have needed to call their attorneys this week as they finalize some contracts. And, of course, let's not bury the lead. Lane Kiffin has made the move from Ole Miss to LSU. And Lane is as polarizing a figure as we've ever seen in the sport. Some say he runs from one place to the next with no concern for who he steps on, but he isn't running from Ole Miss. He's running towards something bigger, something that actually fits the ceiling of who he is as a coach and a brand. Has it occurred to anybody that maybe he's tired of the fight to keep your head above water at a middle tier SEC program? LSU recruits itself. Adding him is like gas to hot embers that are never fully extinguished in Baton Rouge. He can build something sustainable there. Is he likely taking the job to get fired like every other LSU coach? Probably. But the potential to build a true dynasty exists only in a few places. And Craig, Ole Miss is not one of them. Let's be honest. Lane has been outpacing Ole Miss's infrastructure for years. He's been trying to build a perennial contender at a place that's not historically built for sustained national relevance. And you can only swim upstream for so long before you start longing to coach somewhere again that just hands you the oars. And that's LSU. It's one of the only programs in America where the floor stays high even during the chaos. When you don't have to beg for talent, you just decide which 5 stars you want to keep, which ones you want to flip, and which ones you're willing to let Alabama cry about. This is a place where you don't have to manufacture belief because belief is baked into the soil. The minute that Lane steps off the plane, he inherits a roster blueprint that most programs would need 5 years to assemble. And then you give that guy, the king of offensive reinnovation, the portal whisperer, the architect of modern college football chaos, you give him a program that already has championship DNA. It's not a rebuild. It's a chemical reaction. Will he probably get fired? Yes. It's LSU. Everybody gets fired. You win a national championship. You hold the trophy. You take the picture. 3 years later, somebody pays your buyout because your special teams missed a couple kicks in Starkville. But here's the key. At LSU, getting fired comes with a chance to become immortal first. You don't get that at Ole Miss. You don't get 3 Heisman finalists in a decade. You don't get the kind of depth that survives injuries. You don't get to walk into any living room and win based on the logo on your shirt. Lane Kiffin wants to prove that he's more than a clever play caller with a burner phone. He wants hardware. He wants the shot at sustained greatness that only exists at a handful of college football addresses: Tuscaloosa, Athens, Baton Rouge. That's the list. So, yes, Lane to LSU makes perfect sense to me. It's not a lateral move. It's not a gamble. It's a coach betting on himself at a program built to reward coaches who bet big. And if he hits, Baton Rouge gets loud again. Craig, happy Sunday night and welcome to the chaos. What say you, my friend?
What year is it?
It's 2025. I'll humor you.
Okay, good. Because you're talking like it's 2015. What was Lane Kiffin's record in 6 years at Ole Miss? 55-19. 55. And as I'm ranting, I'll let you Google whatever LSU's record was within the last 6 years. Because how many coaches have they gone through? Let's see. They had Big Ed O. He got blown out. And then they had Brian Kelly. And then he got blown out. Ole Miss, yes, has been historically a fun time. It's been more about the Grove than it has been anything about the Vaught. Lane Kiffin changed that. But he also had alignment. Keith Carter was effective in that. The Grove Collective was effective in that. How has LSU done in NIL? Yeah, they did a little bit of something this year. How well did that work out? How well did that work out for Brian Kelly? Oh, I think he got blown out. You remember, you were on the Nuss bus early on in the year. But here's the thing. They have alignment. If they have one direction in Oxford, Lane was directing that ship, and he did a phenomenal job. Was it hard? Was it difficult? Yes. Did he lose games he shouldn't have last year? Yes. But it was a pinnacle year. They're 11-1. One loss to Georgia. And I think I predicted that correctly if we're looking at our sheet, that they were going to be 11-1 this year. They have an offense that can score against anybody. They have a defense that can be pretty damn effective. And yet, he gives it all away to go to LSU. Dysfunctional you, if I'm being quite honest, of where they are. Yes, you can fall out your back door of Baton Rouge, and you have Houston with you, and you can have all the 5 stars you want. But that didn't seem to save Ed Orgeron's job. That didn't seem to save Brian Kelly's job. And now you're going to have Lane Kiffin going into a place without that structure. And I don't know what it's going to look like. Now, I thought I was going to get my time.
I thought you were done.
No,
I thought
I'm not done.
My apologies.
I'm not done.
My apologies.
Done. He has a blueprint, and he can be successful. And what I find most frustrating and most infuriating is I thought we expected more. We had the ESPN propaganda machine pumping him up with Ryan McGee's documentary earlier in the year, and then College Game Day just, oh, poor Lane, the calendar's against him, and it's so bad, and it's wrong. Every college football coach talks about finish. And he is not finishing. He's walking out on an 11-1 season. He's walking out on the opportunity to have Ole Miss host a playoff game and probably go into at least the quarterfinals, if not the semifinals. That is pathetic. Sure, he may win a national championship, but I'm putting it right here, Rob. He won't be there in 5 years, and he'll be fired before he even sniffs a national championship.
I think that he wins at least one, if not multiple, before he inevitably leaves for the NFL or gets fired in Baton Rouge. Those are my predictions. We'll put those out there. Here, we want to hear from you guys, though. We have the chat box is open for anybody that wants to comment. If you're watching on X, if you're watching on YouTube, let us know. What do you think about these coaching moves in the SEC? I want to run through a couple of things here, Craig, before we get going, because I didn't want to bury the lead and talk about and miss out an opportunity to talk about Lane Kiffin. But it's not lost on me that the fact that we've had coaching carousel moves all day kind of overshadow rivalry week, which is one of the best weeks in the college football calendar with so many things happening. So let's run over some things really quickly. As promised, I will announce to you guys, of course, that South Carolina fell 28-14 to Clemson on Saturday. And now we'll make our run through. Are you raising your hand, Mr. McMichael, before I do the rest of the scores?
Yeah, just real quick. Since 2020, LSU has 48 wins, so 7 less wins than what Lane Kiffin has in the same time at Ole Miss. So all of that talent has brought you 7 less wins. So good job.
Well, a lot of that was under Brian Kelly, and if we're going to compare Brian Kelly and Lane Kiffin, I'm not sure that I'm
not going to compare them. I'm not going to compare them, but you have so much talent, you should be able to just roll the ball out and just win. Is what you're saying.
Friday was a great day in the league as Ole Miss. A lot of talk here about Ole Miss wins the Egg Bowl 38-19 over Mississippi State. Your Georgia Bulldogs in an ugly slobber knocker against Georgia Tech in Mercedes-Benz, 16-9. They come out victorious. There it is. Let me pause to say I was wrong all the way from April picking the Yellow Jackets. Went out on a limb, and it ended up not being that far off. Okay, Texas A&M falls famously, now infamously perhaps, to Texas in Austin, 27-17, knocking the Aggies out of an opportunity to play in Atlanta. And then on Saturday, as I mentioned before.
Quick question on your Friday pick there.
Yes.
It's Arch Manning will be your number 4 spot in the Heisman pick this week.
We'll see how the votes come in. All right. I mentioned Clemson, South Carolina. Louisville absolutely dismantles Kentucky 41-0. as many coaching moves as we've had, it's going to be difficult, I think, for Kentucky to continue to extend Mark Stoops, but I'm not really sure they can get out of it. Missouri holds off Arkansas after a first half push from the Hogs. Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt go into Knoxville. Pavia accountable for over 400 yards, 430 yards of offense and a couple of touchdowns, 45-24 over the Vols. And in my opinion, Pavia is your Heisman Trophy deserving winner. If I have a vote, that's where it's going. Oklahoma sneaks past LSU on a late blown coverage, 17-13 in Norman. Florida figures it out against Florida State, 40-21. And then Alabama, of course, in an Iron Bowl that absolutely did not disappoint, 27-20 over Auburn, setting up an SEC championship game. Alabama versus Georgia, which we have obviously already seen a few times.
Five times.
The Tide was were victorious already this season, and so we'll look forward to seeing what happens next weekend. But before, obviously, we get to all of that, we have a few coaching moves to go over. So scores are what scores are. Craig, I want to give you these coaches really quickly, and I want to ask you this question. And then we have some friends that we want to bring in and get their thoughts and opinions as well. So many coaching moves today. Okay, Arkansas hires Ryan Silverfield from Memphis. His overall record as a head coach is 50-25. They gave him a 5-year deal for $33.5 million. That's roughly 6.7 for all you middle schoolers out there. $6.7 million per year. Thank you very much. Auburn gets Golish from South Florida. He has a 23-15 overall record on a 6-year deal at $7.4 million per year. And then Florida hires John Summerall from Tulane, 42-11 overall, 6-year, $45 million deal, $7.5 million per year. Lane Kiffin, of course, as we said before, to LSU, and Pete Golding has already been named as the permanent replacement, moving from his defensive coordinator position to the head coach of the Rebels as they prepare for the college football playoff and beyond. Okay, so let's take Lane Kiffin out of it, Craig, for just a moment. And of the other hires, Florida with Summerall, Arkansas with Silverfield, Auburn with Golish, and Ole Miss with Pete Golding. Who's your biggest winner and your biggest loser out of that group?
Biggest winner, I think, is short. I'm going to look short term. Is Pete Golding. Golding had, I think there was 5 staffers that left with Lane on the plane down to Baton Rouge. I think the players, for the most part, are going to stay intact. He's going to be able to get that bump. If he gets a favorable matchup, like, say, with Virginia or maybe a G6, then he's into the quarterfinals, and he's going to be, I think he gets the biggest, shortest term bump. The biggest disappointment or the biggest loser is the other 3 jobs. The best we could do is American Conference coaches. John Summerall has the opportunity to be very good. He's done it both at Troy. He's also done it at Tulane. He's been to 4 straight conference championships. I get that. There's a lot of promise there. Offensively, they've had some questions with him. Golish and Silverfield, a lot of flash, not much.
Did we just lose you, or is that my internet?
Oh, can you hear me? Oh, okay. So Craig's good. So my biggest question, I think, with Auburn, Florida, and Arkansas, is this really the best that we can do? We talk about, the SEC being in this spot, and my biggest question, my biggest concern is you've got a guy like Ryan Silverfield at Arkansas. The biggest thing with him is Memphis was the best finance program in the American Conference and probably in the G6. They got big FedEx money out there. Yet he comes in to a team that was 12-2, was at the Cotton Bowl, and is never able to replicate those wins. He does a good job in the American, but is never really able to kind of elevate that. Now he's going to go to Arkansas. Arkansas is a difficult job. They're at the bottom tier. They were Ole Miss. There's where Mississippi State was. They were, at those different places. Arkansas also has a challenge with their NIL. Despite being the home of Walmart and being the home of Tyson Chicken Money, they've had a real difficulty leveraging the portal and really, adjusting NIL. My biggest question with Silverfield, is he the right guy? is he most effective to be able to carry on and take Arkansas to that next level? Probably there are a lot of questions like that with Drink at Mizzou, and Drink has done a very good job. They've leveraged NIL. They've been able to leverage the portal. If Silverfield's able to do that, hey, I could be wrong, but again, disappointing. The interesting one for me is Alex Golsh, who went to Auburn. It was funny. Auburn played in the Iron Bowl last night. Golsh and USF played in the played and beat the crap out of Rice last night. And Golsh in his press conference is like, the family and I, we've got to take our time. We've got to kind of figure out what's going on. We've got to look to the future. And then like 9 a.m. this morning, John Cohen is talking about, hey, we're looking at going to this next level. I'm just going to call it. It's BS on this part. Golsh got a nice deal from Arkansas earlier in the year. Wes Pruitt gave him, shout out to our boy Wes Pruitt, was confirming that hire, takes the deal back to Auburn, and then Cohen does this under wraps. The last one is Summerall. Summerall, I thought, was going to Ole Miss. I thought he and Lane were kind of tied there. If Lane went to Tulane, he was going to Ole Miss. He goes to Florida. Summerall is a defensive guy. Rob and I have both talked time and again, if you're going to be effective at Florida, you have to be an offensive guy. That's why we talked about Shannon Dawson. That's why we talked about Elijah Drinkowitz going there. And, not seeing Kenny Dillingham on any of these lists, not seeing Drink, go on any of these lists, not seeing even like Dan Mullen, who I talked about going to Auburn a few weeks ago on this list. To me, this is all disappointing. You know what? One of these three could work, and they could be really effective. But to me, if I look at it, it's kind of like, nice. Maybe you're not even winning the press conference, as we're going to see. Florida and Arkansas were already protesting both of these hires, so these guys are already starting out in the hot seat. So, I know, Rob, we lost you, but, I was waxing poetic, as our boy Casey so eloquently pointed out. I'm putting Golding up first, and if, I can, I'm going to say the Huntrix. I'm going to be playing that Huntrix thing. We're going Golden because, you know what, Ole Miss is going to the semis. And he's, Lane is going to wish that he had the right defensive coordinator instead of having Brett Baker or whoever the hell he has down at LSU. But the other three, just disappointing. I wanted a bigger swing. And I'm sorry, the American Conference, this is a conference that just means more. Those hires don't tell me it just means more.
Okay, here's what I want to do. Because we did lose me for a second there, is let me just give my take really quick. We're going to grab a break, and then we're going to bring our friends in on the other side to respond to these questions as well. Dailey Joy is with us, not on campus, but live to react tonight as we now have a new coach at LSU and many other places. And Casey's going to be with us for the long haul as well, not just for the boards at the end. So we have several things to get to, but I'll just say this. As is the theme of the show tonight, I completely disagree with everything that you said. I think that Florida is the biggest winner out of those four because I like John Summerall the best out of the four hires. I'm tempted to go Auburn because I feel like Golsh is a decent fit, but he would have been better, I think, honestly, at Arkansas. But I do think Auburn kind of gives him a better platform. It just makes me nervous because I feel like things on the plains can get really weird and quick trigger and toxic-ish. I like Summerall's makeup overall, and we'll get to the comparison with Billy Napier here in just a few minutes because I think it's very important that we kind of see the difference between the two. I, on the again, opposite to you, think that Pete Golding and Ole Miss are the losers here, and it's only because it's the biggest question mark for me. I'm not really sure what we're going to get out of Pete Golding. I don't know what his capabilities.
You need to tell me what we're going to get out of Ryan Silverfield. You know what you're going to get out of Alex Golsh.
I know what I'm going to get out of them from a head coaching perspective. Yeah, I know what their MO is. When it comes to Pete Golding, we don't really know. And also to your point about the short term, he's kind of operating on what is the staff. When you take significant members off of the staff and you're going into college football playoff, you're going to have deficiencies. Yep. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you slice that. And so I don't know who he's going to add to that staff for next year to fill those spots out. And I don't know how he's going to operate when he has to manage the entirety of the organization and not just the defense. I think that he does a great job defensively. And I think if he's smart and makes the right hires, I could be completely wrong, and this could flip around, and Ole Miss could be the winner, as you said. But right now, I have way too many question marks, and I just think it was maybe one of the most shocking things of the day that Keith Carter pulled that trigger as quickly as he did. All right, we're going to jump aside and get a break here really quick.
Quick question for the break.
Yes.
Just to take it back to the scores, because I know you love the scores.
Yes.
I was 9-1 in my picks this week for week 14. What were your picks?
My picks were somewhere lost in the middle of the break, and we have so many people in the comments tonight. I would love for you guys to continue to chime in on who you think are the winners and the losers in terms of the coaching moves. This is SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network. We'll be right back.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawse.com. hdlawse.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team.
This is SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome back to SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network. Again, I'm Rob Williams, joined by my friend and co-host Craig McMichael as always. And here tonight, we are jumping in quickly and early with Casey Cregan and Dailey Joy to discuss all of the craziness of the SEC today. Joy, we'll start with you. Welcome in. The biggest news of the day, of course, is your LSU Tigers now have Lane Kiffin as the new head coach. I'll take a moment before we get going to remind people that today is the last day to register for the SEC Pretty Giveaway, as we've been running that all of November. Today's the last day of November, and if you go to the top of our comments, you can see the link is posted there for you to register. It's really simple and it's really easy. All you have to do is click on that link. I'll put it in there again, and you can follow Craig and I to enter. Or you can visit the website, or you can subscribe to the YouTube. There's a lot of ways that you can get in, or you can do them all. And we're going to give some stuff away to you guys. We just want to know who you are. We know what's going on, and we want to give back. So there it is in the chat. If you want to click that and get some free SEC Pretty merch. Joy's continuing to create new, incredible, fabulous stuff. And as we get into the holiday season, you need to get this stuff for free. And it's just and as you wear it around, everybody's going to want to know where it came from. And they're going to go to SECpretty.com and they're going to buy stuff for themselves and for their loved ones and for everybody else so that we can be decked out. Because college football never stops, and we need to represent the best conference in the country at all times. Craig is doing his finger like he's got something to say, but it's your turn to talk, Joy. Let's hear about what's going on in Baton Rouge. How are we feeling?
I feel great. I mean, I am going to go to bed. I'm going to sleep well. I'm not going to bed like angry or mad or frustrated like Craig will tonight. I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna sleep peacefully and aware of the fact that, I now have a coach that can breathe and coach halfway decently, unlike Brian Kelly could for the last 3 years. So yeah, I'm happy. I understand why Ole Miss fans are mad. I think they have a right to be mad. I understand. I think this all could have been handled better. Yeah. But I find it so ironic that people want to pile on us LSU fans and want us to take on this identity that like, this isn't okay. I'm like, we've thrived in the villain era every single time we've been in it. Nothing that will not change now. I think, Rob, you said that it was a match made in heaven. It really is. Like, y'all already didn't like us. We just decided to bring on a coach that you also didn't like. That's who we are. It's who we'll continue to be. And if I was some other schools not named Alabama or Georgia, I would be worried too, if I'm being honest.
I don't know if it's like.
Oh, here we go.
I don't know. Listen. I am not going to
take a deep breath, Craig. I mean, I don't think you've taken a solid deep breath.
I'm gonna go grab a drink. Can
am.
y'all play nice while I'm gone?
I don't know.
Cheers.
Can your network?
Put that
Can
away,
I just
Casey.
say that I love Casey's ACC pretty outfit tonight?
What?
Casey's
I don't know what you're
beautiful.
talking about.
I would
Casey
build a
hasn't-
brand around Casey just.
He is
himself.
not. He has on way too much orange, and this is the only.
needed
that's
me
the
on
only
this where-
episode. This is the only
where Craig
episode
is.
when he kind of has to. No, you're a guest. You get the middle.
But
Yep.
team right side, you know.
Yeah,
it's a
we're
little
team
thing
right side forever.
for me and Joy. So
That works. No, and here's the thing. Lane is going to do a fantastic job. He's going to embrace the villain era, and that's what LSU is going to be. What I have a problem with, and it's not LSU, it's the way Kiffin handled this the whole deal.
Craig, I completely understand your point.
Yep.
Here's the issue I have with what you said 5 minutes ago, which
Okay.
you were talking about the other hires, and you're over here saying, I'm so disappointed they're weak hires. Well, if
Yep.
they would have swung for the fences and tried to get coaches that were in the playoff, they would have hit the exact same timeline that Lane Kiffin hit. And you would be complaining about the same different people. Or would you? Or is it just really easy to hate Lane Kiffin because he has been the villain in college football for years and years and years? And it's really easy to say, okay, we're going to continue hating him forever. And then he's going to a school that we also don't
No,
like.
I think it's no
that has
because
a lot of resources.
what I think it's easy to hate on Lane Kiffin for is I am one of the biggest Lane Kiffin apologists and slappies. But the fact that you're leaving
Until now.
11-1, the fact you're leaving now 11-1, being in the playoff, I agree with you. You know what? And it's different for Summerall. It's different for Eric Morris going to Oklahoma State because it's not intra-conference. But when you're now leaving for your biggest rival, you know what? Again, kudos to LSU. It's a hell of a hire.
First of
I'm
all,
sure
we're not
that-
their biggest rival. That's not the facts.
One of two. Okay, if it's not Hail State, then who is it?
I do not think we're one of Ole Miss's biggest rivals.
McNeese.
Okay, let's talk about this for just a minute. Who's to blame here? Because I don't think it's Lane Kiffin. I think it's the calendar. And if we want to listen to the
Not
goat,
the
Nick
calendar.
Saban,
That is such a scapegoat. Or you must be on ESPN's payroll with Saban and Herb Street if you think
How would I
it's
be
the
on
calendar.
ESPN's payroll when they're half the reason that we have the calendar set up the way that it is because it maximizes the dollars for them the way that it's set up. We don't need 2 signing periods. We don't need a transfer portal in the middle of the playoff. I don't understand. Why do they overlap? That makes
Rob, I
no
think that
sense.
there's a couple villains. I think you can partially blame the calendar. I think that the timing of it all is crappy and it doesn't work out well for any head coach.
And we should
that
change it.
wants
That
to leave.
point blank, that just makes sense for us to change it.
I
And then we
completely
wouldn't
agree
have
with
to
you.
fire coaches early. We could let it play out and there wouldn't be all this pressure to hurry up and get
I
a new
completely
coach
agree.
in.
I think there's a couple villains in this. I don't think there's one singular thing to blame. I don't think you can solely blame the calendar. I don't think you can solely blame Lane Kiffin, and I don't think you can solely blame Keith Carter. I think there was probably error in every single part of this situation.
What did Carter do?
I think Lane Kiffin saying he wanted to leave and take a better opportunity. Anyone in any job in America that was presented with a once in a lifetime opportunity is more than likely going to say yes to it. When your mentors are telling you to say yes to it, you're going to do that. At the same time, that means that you're sacrificing walking away from the program that you've built. That's part of it. Keith Carter probably wasn't thrilled with that decision and didn't make things easy on Lane in making the decision. So I think it was the perfect storm of chaos. And Lane already being an easy person to villainize in this industry just took on a villain role at a higher level than anybody else would.
I have no issues with Lane Kiffin in this whole saga because he is exactly what we thought he was. Why are we acting shocked and we're so upset because this is what
I'm naive.
Like, why is that the situation that we're upset about what Lane Kiffin is doing? This is what Lane Kiffin does. And I said this earlier on X. I think it was Barrett Salih that made the point that like this was that
Friend of the show.
He was going the other direction.
No,
right?
he's not.
He's a friend of Casey's show.
All right, Casey.
Craig, on the other hand. All right. Anyway, I made the point that the only thing anybody cares about is what we can do in the immediate timeline. And there is no loyalty in this game whatsoever. And all of us that are still trying to hang on to people being loyal in any way, shape, or form are living in a fantasy world. It's dead. We already had the funeral. We've moved on. There's no player loyalty to a program. There's no coach loyalty to a program. It is the highest bidder. It is the path of least resistance. It is a selfish world where we're trying to get ahead.
Resistance to what? Path of least resistance to what?
So whatever, however you define success, in Lane Kiffin's,
what does it matter? Like, so they came within what? I mean, Auburn did what Auburn does at Jordan Hare and just totally like was screwing with Alabama all last night. So if Ole Miss is playing in Atlanta on Saturday, was he still taking the plane to Baton Rouge today?
Craig, none of us are in those calls. We don't know that. But, like, you're over here upset that he built a program up and is leaving. You're not mad at someone.
Then why are you playing the game?
They're 10-2, and he's only been at Tulane a freaking year. Like, it's
freaking Tulane. I'm sorry.
Because he's leaving to go to LSU is exhausting. Like, y'all got to be – you're going to be sore from reaching so much because it's just absolute insanity, the level of expectation you have for him compared to everybody else.
I would say in terms of –
I'm sorry, but the fact that you are trying to put Tulane and Ole Miss on the same level.
I'm not putting Tulane and Ole Miss. I'm putting John Summerall saying he's 10-2, and you're not complaining that he built a program up to 10-2 after Willie Fritz left. There was
nothing to build. Willie Fritz had it going. What was Ole Miss?
That Summerall is walking away from a team that's 10-2 and also is a playoff team, but you're mad at Lane Kiffin for doing the same thing. It's insane. Y'all are insane.
There's a path to a national championship. If you're Ole Miss, there is no path.
And they're still on the path, Greg. They're still on the path.
Here's what I would say about path of least resistance. That there is a path. There is a path to a national championship at Ole Miss this year, but there's not an annual path. There is an annual path at LSU. It does not matter what the level of dysfunction is. There's always a path to a national championship at LSU, just like there's always a path in Athens, just like there's always a path in Tuscaloosa. And that's why I said that and just like there's always a path in Columbus. There's only a couple of places where this happens year in and year out. And Ole Miss is just not one of them. And eventually these college coaches have enough on them as it is. It is an insane struggle for them to recruit high school, to recruit the portal, to recruit their roster, to manage NIL, to have a GM that they're working with, to have the calendar in the way that it is. You have to prepare for this game while you're out here doing this thing. And there's no time off for them. And if you go home and spend time with your family or your kids, then you're probably going to get fired because somebody else was working during that time that you went and took care of the people that mean the most to you. It is not a profession for anybody who is weak-minded and anybody who wants to take an hour a day off.
And I think that's going to be so. That's
and eventually that gets tiring. You need as many advantages as you can get, and so that's why Lane Kiffin's headed to LSU, and he had no choice but to do it right now.
How about another advantage?
It sucks. Go ahead.
Just high school recruiting. He just completely put that on the back burner because every single kid that grows up in Louisiana wants to go to LSU.
And now
he just completely is going to do what Mac Brown used to say and put that fence around Louisiana, and every kid is going to want to go, especially offensively, but both sides of the ball, and even depending on who he gets for recruiting coordinator. It doesn't really matter. He obviously is going to go outside of Louisiana too, but every kid. Gone are the days that Travis Etienne's coming to Clemson. Gone are those, Trevor Etienne's going to Georgia. That's not happening anymore. Those kids are all going to stay home because now Lane's there, and that's one less thing he really has to focus on.
Yeah, and he does it now. He's not fighting with everybody else in the transfer portal every year. Yep. Like Rob, you mentioned it earlier. Like he might have just been tired of treading water because that's what you have to do at Ole Miss. He was going in the portal every year and just piecing together rosters and praying.
And it's mercenaries, and there's no culture, and you just have to have this like F everybody, let's go out here and
Yeah,
it's
then
us
you're
against
sitting,
the
and
world
he's sitting here
like type
talking
of
about it.
mentality.
Like, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year from them. They returned 2 guys, and he had to go into the portal to get everybody else. Like, he's having that level of success at Ole Miss, and he's not gonna have to do that at LSU. Like,
No, he's not.
Quarterback
He's not.
from
He's not.
Ferris State.
And I'll give you a shout out because who was the director of player personnel that went from Ole Miss to LSU like 2 years ago? Was
Austin Thomas.
Yeah, Austin Thomas, and then Lane also brought his GM in. And again, I think he's going to have Frank Wilson there. I know he was meeting with him in the office.
Frank is staying.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing is I think that has been the missing piece for Lane. If you look at Ole Miss, right, is like that high school recruiting. So it is going to be like rocket fuel going to LSU, and it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to leverage that portal. But like I said, the part that I'm frustrated about is where he was at, and that he's kind of leaving it. Yes,
But you can be frustrated with that, but you're like, I don't think it's fair to take your frustrations and then say, okay, and he's going to be fired in 5 years. Like, I don't know I don't think that's necessarily fair to do. You can be frustrated with where he's at, but like, to compare him to Brian Kelly's tenure in Baton Rouge is a nightmare. It's a completely different athletic director. It's a completely different president. These are guys that went in and hired him. And we can talk all day long about dysfunction. The reality is LSU is completely fine if you're having off the field antics as long as you're winning. Ed Orgeron won a national championship. Like, it's not, that's the part that, again, everyone wants to go like, oh, we should bring back Coach O. And I'm like, y'all forgot 2020 and 2021 happened. But like,
right.
If you breathe well and love this place, it will love you back. Ed Orgeron proved that. And that was pre-NIL era, where we could pay the kids that live in the state to stay in the state. I think it's a completely different environment.
So what does that look like? Because here's the one thing that Lane did a very good job of at Ole Miss. He got the Grove Collective in order to be able to do what he does in the portal and with NIL. And I think that is a fair criticism that I think you and I can at least both agree on. We don't agree on much tonight, but like I think we can agree on LSU needed to get that together. Brian Kelly did
and they did.
Okay,
and they did. I think the part of this that's probably because it's this big like Lane show, which I understand, is I am not a fan of Verge Osbury. When we hired him as our athletic director, I publicly said I was not a fan. I do not like how he handled Les Miles when he was on staff here. I have personal issues with that. I can put that aside and say Verge knew that the president caught heat when he named Verge the permanent athletic director. And Verge said, I will do everything in my power to completely and totally nail this hire. And that's exactly what he did. He pulled in NIL donors that we had not heard of, that had not spoken about, that were not. I think the other part of this is that Brian Kelly wasn't a likable guy, so our boosters weren't exactly walking in with blank checks ready to just give him money to coach. That wasn't happening. I know for a fact that LSU's NIL fund increased by at minimum $10 million with Lane's offer, if not more than that. And last year Brian Kelly had 19 million. So do with that math what you will. I think they drastically improved in NIL numbers. And I genuinely think, if we want to be real, that's really what this all came down to. Was Ole Miss was offering money they didn't even really have, just trying to like make something work with Lane. LSU does actually have that money. Ironically, the really poor state does have a lot of money to pump into their football program. And I think that's really what it ultimately came down to, was you looked at Lane and said, salary wise, yeah, we're going to give you a raise, but we're going to give you enough money to build whatever kind of roster you want to build and go do with that what you will. So if Lane fails here, it will only be because of himself.
Speaking of how to build things, a couple of things here before we continue. It's 8:39 on SEC Sunday night here live on the Chief Sports Network. Daily Joy of SEC Pretty is with us. And if you want to win some SEC Pretty merch for free, the link is there in the comments. And it's also in my bio. All you have to do is go and grab that. You can also go to secpretty.com to buy whatever you would like. Joy's got a ton of stuff. We're going to continue this discussion. Joy, we're talking about building the program, and Craig and I had this conversation earlier. And before we get to the rest of the SEC, and we can put some of this Lane Kiffin stuff to rest for the remainder of the show, who do we want to see continue to move to Baton Rouge? We've got coaches, we've got players potentially. I think the coaching discussion is more of the the one that we can have right now because we have some answers, and then we can talk some hypotheticals in terms of players. But who are you, from an LSU standpoint, most excited to see come over from a coaching standpoint, and where do you stand on Baker staying on as the DC?
I love the idea of Blake Baker staying on as the DC. From what I'm hearing, like that's a very viable option. I think the bigger thing won't be if Lane decides he wants to get rid of Baker. It will be if Tulane offers Baker the head coaching job. That is his alma mater. And as much as like it would suck to lose him, I cannot blame him for taking that head coaching job. And I honestly think he would do incredible there. So whatever Blake Baker decides to do, I think he has the full respect of our fan base to do it. He has given us a lot of bright lights and a lot of very hard times as of recently. So I would love for Blake to stay. I know as of right now, there are 9 staffers that Lane Kiffin brought over from Ole Miss. And that's not just like names that we've heard. Those are guys whose names have now been wiped from Ole Miss's athletic directory. Like they're not there anymore, including Charlie Weiss Jr. He did bring in his own GM. However, from what we're hearing as of like 15 minutes ago, he's going to still keep Austin Thomas in a role. I think that's really key. I think that's a good role. I don't know if they probably won't be co-GMs. There will be some maneuvering of titles and responsibilities. But I think as much as I like, yes, I'm excited to see the offensive side of the ball come with Lane. Obviously, that's a spot that we have struggled in outside of the Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels years. So I'm thrilled about those. But retaining coaches is, in my mind, at LSU, just as important as bringing guys with you. We talked about Frank. Frank is not someone that you can afford to lose. He is the heart and soul of not just the LSU football program. He's the heart and soul of the state of Louisiana. He is a legend. Guys, little kids grow up knowing who Frank Wilson is. He is a key to major recruits. So keeping Frank on staff, which as of right now, that's absolutely positively happening. I don't think Lane is dumb enough to walk in there and just like clean house like the last coach did. I think Frank being retained will be huge. I think Corey Raymond being retained will be huge. Again, the thing that we're more nervous about is if Blake Baker leaves to take the Tulane job, who defensively does he take with him? As far as the offensive side of the ball, Lane could have brought every single offensive staff member from Ole Miss, and we would have been thrilled. He's bringing his strength and conditioning coach, which thank God ours was horrendous. He can get out 20 minutes ago. But yeah, I mean, here's the deal. I have not had a head coach that I have legitimately trusted in I don't know how long, if I'm being real. And I don't say trust as in I think he's staying here long term, as in trust I think he's building a national championship. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying trust the fact that you had guys that even wanted to come with Lane. When Brian Kelly was hired, he had to beg staffers to come with him, and some of them left after 1 year. And now you're looking at the guys that he left us with, and you're like, yeah, I know why they came with you. They couldn't have got hired anywhere else. So the fact that you went in there today, 9 coaches, including your offensive coordinator, your co-offensive coordinator, your wide receivers coach, like the fact that those guys came with you speaks very big volumes to me about the state of the staff that he's going to put together. So I'm at this point in time, I'm kind of taking a deep breath and just trusting that he's going to do a good job of putting a staff together.
This might be a question for down the line, but one of the things that I've been thinking about while you were talking, Joy, is about, and my little rant before about high school recruiting is, can he develop high school recruits? Because he was at USC, left on the tarmac with a lot more money at the time, resources, and couldn't do much with it. And also part 2, is he going to do all right with the governor of Louisiana meddling in his business?
I don't think I genuinely, I'm just going to be so honest. I think the governor thing's a little bit overplayed. I think Governor Landry had to step in because we didn't have a president. And so the immediate thing was there's no alignment. Okay, so what did they do? They immediately hired a president, and then whether I liked it or not, the president immediately promoted Verge to permanent AD and put alignment in about as quickly as you can get alignment in a place. I think it's just, we all have really short-term memories. A month ago, we were discussing if LSU was going to be able to hire anyone of any caliber because of what a dysfunctional show it was.
Yep.
And we all kind of sat back and laughed because we're like, this is who we are. Like, I don't understand. Like, this is our.
And you're always one
Tuesday.
You're always one move away from that, from exactly what you're talking about, though. It's always like, yes, it was chaos, and other shows that I'm on have very much that perspective of like, yo, this is awful. This looks really, really bad. But I've continued to maintain that you're one move away at LSU from being right back in the college football playoff and contending for a national championship as a strong contender, and that's why I think it's important. Casey, I think to your point, I've heard a lot today in the narrative of, well, we've seen Lane in prominent jobs before. USC comes to mind, where he's had, quote unquote, all of the resources, where he has the blue blood mentality, where he has history on his side. But it's been a while. And I think he's grown up, and I think that he's learned, and I think he's developed as a human being and as a coach in a lot of ways since then. Does that mean specifically that he can develop high school talent? Is to be seen. But I do think that there's been a lot of growth for him professionally and personally, and I think that that may have come along with it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the FAU job probably humbled him a little bit. You would hope, anyway.
Right.
And I think he is aware of his strengths and weaknesses. And I think he can sit here and go, okay, that might not be my strong suit. I am really good at going to find talent in the portal, but this state breeds high school talent like nothing else. So I'm an idiot if I let these guys walk out of the state. Also, I know I won't keep my job if I do that, because the state of Louisiana we all know that, like, we'll riot if you let too many guys out of the state. And so I think, again, this goes back to Rob, you saying he's being more mature. I think we're seeing a different version of him. He is going to have to look around and say, like, if I can't recruit high school talent, I have to put coordinators and position coaches and the Frank Wilsons of the world that do know how to develop and grow talent, because you can't let guys in the state of Louisiana walk out and go to competing schools.
And the question will be, is his ego too big to do that? Does he think he has to do it all on his own? And that's a fair question given his track record and what we know about him but I also think that you can't be successful in these types of roles without that level of an ego. So it's kind of 6 1, half a dozen the other. Like, you got to kind of have it.
But he relied upon Golding a lot. Like, Golding, like, one of the good things that he did at Ole Miss, he was a recruiter, right? And like, that's where the shark emoji comes from. You know, Lane would always put the emoji of him catching that big fish. I think he has relied upon that. What I think is really interesting with Lane going to LSU is now you're going to have the Saban blueprint in Austin, Baton Rouge, Alabama, and Tuscaloosa and Athens. So to me, right there, like, that's going to change that recruiting calculus within the SEC and kind of, shift that power dynamic. And I think that to me is what is going to prove most interesting.
Speaking of other schools, Craig, you mentioned kind of what we would consider, I think, the top tier. The middle to bottom tier got some new head coaches, and you and I discussed it. I want to get Joy and Casey's thoughts as well. Let's hit one more time out here so we can clear out all of our breaks, and when we come back, we'll kind of let you guys respond to who the biggest winners and losers were in the SEC coaching hires of the day. Again, it's SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network. We'll be right back.
When playing sports, you want a coach that will fight for you. At Hewitt Diamaduros Law Firm, we've got your back. Whether it's personal injury, insurance disputes, negligence, or wrongful death, our team delivers exceptional legal services that makes meaningful difference in the lives of the individuals and families we work for. Visit hdlawsc.com. hdlawsc.com. Hewitt Diamaduros, we're on your team.
Oh, man, the building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
Yo, what's up? Baby, let's go!
This is SEC Sunday night on the Chiefs Sports Network.
Welcome back to SEC Sunday Night Live on the Chief Sports Network. We're here discussing the insane, chaotic moves of the day as the dominoes fall across the SEC and coaching vacancies. We've discussed at length the Lane Kiffin move to LSU, but there are several other moves across the league that occurred today as Alex Golesh was hired at Auburn, John Summerall at Florida, Ryan Silverfield at Arkansas, and then also Pete Golding replacing Lane Kiffin in Ole Miss. So winners, losers, mid hires. Are we moved by these decisions? Joy, Casey, chime in and give us your thoughts.
Casey, take it away. I've talked a lot.
No,
You're not moved,
Not moved.
or you don't want to talk.
no. I mean, I like the Alex Golesh thing, and I think I follow USF because I lived down there in Tampa for 12 years, and Jeff Scott was obviously the coach before Golesh. So to see what Alex Golesh did and what he inherited, and I just think that he's going to breathe some life there. He's an offensive guy, right? Offense is exciting. If he can recruit kids, what he did at USF was take those third-tier kids that were used to be going to UCF, and now they were coming to USF. You talk about a cupboard full of talent. That's Florida. I mean, when you can legitimately have three teams, obviously not this year, but you have three teams that are in the upper echelon of college football year in and year out, and to be able to be successful, I think just from the periphery, I think Alex Golesh is a good hire there. I don't really know enough about Silverfield, and who watches Memphis really? Come on.
The interesting
Shout
part
out to Spence.
Alex Golesh, like if I'm him, I'm recruiting Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton Jr. like first and foremost, because I can only imagine what his offenses can do with that. Now we'll see if they actually have a quarterback or not, but those two guys I know will help. But I will say, we do like to poke fun at Auburn quite a bit. One of the quietest coaching carousels was at Auburn. Like I feel like John Cohen, there was a lot of flirtation with Summerall, obviously being an Alabama guy, but we did not hear a ton about what was going on there. And you're wondering, like, maybe the Plains is starting to find some alignment.
I know Jay Crane tweeted out something kind of cryptic yesterday about the story behind this hire, and then today said something about how the wind's changed over the last 10 hours. So
yeah, well,
I'm interested to hear from him. That story
that he cryptically tweeted about was tied to DJ Durkin getting the job.
Is that right? Okay.
I think that was the end of the tweet. He was like, after we hired Durkin, I'll tell you guys the whole story. That was the tweet that I saw.
Okay.
And then they didn't hire Durkin. So obviously a lot was changing behind the scenes. Joy, which one do you like?
I like Golesh. I've always kind of been had a very soft spot for Auburn. I think Auburn, I feel bad for them. I feel like physically location wise, they're just stuck. Like being in between Alabama and Georgia is just a brutal place to have to recruit. But I've liked Auburn since I was in college. I've always enjoyed Auburn. I think they have great fans. I think their fans deserve so much better than what they've been given. I do find it quite funny that we really get labeled as dysfunctional, and I'm like, then what are they? Because that's a whole nother
thing.
I mean, we're dysfunctional and still on the occasion can win a natty. They're dysfunctional and fighting for bowl.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep us on the rails tonight. We don't have time to dive down that rabbit hole.
But no, I like Golish. I think they needed a guy like that. I think he brings a little bit of edge, which is kind of what I think is needed. They've done the tried to get the recovering Christian. That didn't really work out for them. They tried the non-culture fit, and that didn't really work out for them in Harsin. And I'll say I think like we've maybe watched Auburn boosters learn to just calm down over the last few years. I think that Brian Harsin, the rumors about him so that they could try to fire him with cause were absolutely insane. I feel like with Freeze, they were like, okay, you're just not winning and it's time for you to go. And I think Golish will come in here and with I'm lost my train of thought. Like Golish is going to come in here and think that he has something to prove. And I think that's the mentality that an Auburn coach needs. I don't think Brian Harsin felt that way. And honestly, like, I think Hugh Freeze was kind of like, look, I've already been in this conference. I've beat who there was to beat. Like, who do I really need to prove? And now it's all come to a screeching halt for those guys. And I think Golish will do well. I think I think Arkansas is the biggest loser in all of this, if I'm being honest. I agree with you, Craig, about Golding. I think the ability to retain some of your talent, to retain some of your coaches is probably an underrated, unappreciated fact about Golding. Now, whether I think he's long-term really a solution for Ole Miss, I don't know. I also think because of how drawn out their coaching search was, the best guys on the board were gone when it was time for them to really decide if they were going to make a hire. And so they probably made the hire that was smartest for the program at the time in Golding. But I mean, the fact that Arkansas fans were planning protests, they're very unhappy. I mean, they're Tennesseeing and Shianoing their hire. There's already a lot of uproar about their athletic director and how poorly of a job he's done in the college football playoff committee. I just think the whole thing is kind of a disaster at Arkansas. You mentioned how much NIL money they have. I know for a fact Walmart has completely cut ties with their NIL, doesn't give them a penny. And so
I the only reason I said that too was because you saw the Walmart logo yesterday on the field. So
yeah, now
you automatically assume, right?
There, but like all of the family members of Walmart that went to Arkansas aren't even involved in the organization anymore. One of my really good friends, her husband is on staff there, and he was like, we haven't received a check from them in years. So they'll give to like random programs and random like honors colleges, but they do not give to really athletics at all. And
Mr. Tyson is a great golf buddy with Cal, and so a lot of that money is getting diverted.
Yeah, Tyson money is mainly going to basketball. So yeah, I just think I think Arkansas boosters and Arkansas NIL donors are over it, and they don't have any faith that they're going to get a hire that's worth financially supporting. And this day and age, if you're not getting any financial backing from outside donors, you've already lost. You're 5 years behind. Arkansas, it feels like they're playing catch up, and they needed a hire that was going to like get them right back in it. I had heard some names that I was a whole lot more impressed with. I really think they took the biggest L on this one, and they're going to continue to be a bottom tier SEC football program and really bottom tier college football program. Take the conference out of it. This was, I feel like, a really big whiff on their part.
So is this a stepping stone for Silverfield? I mean, how did they get that? How did they get him? Like, what did they say to him in an interview for him to say, you know what? I love that vision of where we're going, Mr. AD.
I mean,
not Maya check. He's
if I'm being so honest with you, Casey, having been to Memphis and Fayetteville, I mean, just those two places like that's enough to get me to leave Memphis.
Is it a step up to Fayetteville? Okay,
Fayetteville is beautiful. Like, it's not Fayetteville, I think is a great place to live. I also think like we can talk poorly about Arkansas and their performance over the last few years. The reality is they're still in a very good conference, and they do have, we don't talk about it enough, probably a pretty good recruiting field. They do have to compete obviously with Texas and Louisiana, but they have their state that they could lock down. So it's not, that's what's so interesting, is that it's not I don't think Arkansas is a bad job. I think their leadership has done such a poor job of putting them in a position to succeed that it makes it less attractive to those of us who support programs that whose athletic directors and leadership do put them in a higher tier.
Speaking
I think
of their leadership, we'll be back Tuesday night with a special after the college football playoff rankings reveal with managing editor of the college football department at Last Word, Tony Siracusa, who will be on the press conference with Hunter Yurchek, who is the athletic director at Arkansas, for those of you who do not know. And we'll be able to kind of try to dissect whatever tomfoolery comes out of his mouth and the direction that they're going with this penultimate college football playoff ranking before we prepare for next Sunday night's final rankings.
He loves that word, by the way, Joy. He thinks he's pretty by using that word. But I will say, like with your
that was a clever way to cut me off. Continue.
Yeah, with Yurchek, he totally screwed this hire, like when he fired Pittman, by talking about, we haven't done enough for the NIL and stuff, and it's like, what are you doing? And like, he's not been effective as the college football playoff committee chairman, so you wonder, like, does he get it? But like, if I'm Arkansas and I'm a booster, I guess what I'm looking at is, like, you look at next door to Mizzou. Mizzou and Arkansas probably are in the same spot, and I'm not trying to upset Maggie by saying this, but you're both teams that are really going to have to work really hard to get to that 8, 9, or 10 win. Drink has found that magic sauce and has been able to do that. And again, if I'm Arkansas, I didn't think a ton of Drink when he came from App State to Mizzou. I didn't think, that was going to be a home run hire. Maybe Silverfield can do it, but the biggest challenge I have with him, again, he's got FedEx money, and Memphis is probably one of the better funded programs in G6, and he's not excelling. He's not at that 10, 11, 12 win. How are you going to do that now at a much more
and I
difficult
think that's
job?
the point. That's the point of how they got him, Casey. Back to your question, is that there's a lot of people who said that, he's kind of floating in this territory in Memphis, where if he didn't have a great year next year with the expectations that were on them this year, that he might be in hot water there. So it's an opportunity for him to jump to the Power Four and to the SEC and get out of there before things go bad. It's, several years ago when Iowa State was really, really good and everybody was all over that, and then it just kind of fell off, and we haven't gotten a ton of buzz.
Matt Campbell too.
No Matt Campbell.
There was
no
a lot
Campbell.
of Matt. I feel like there's a lot of Matt Campbell Razorback smoke though.
We got a little bit of Matt Campbell back this year, and I think he should have taken it again. And he just, has kind of stayed where he's at. If you miss your window, and I think Silverfield kind of sees that, and had to jump in. A couple of things I want to say here just really quickly, and then I'm going to get over to the chat box because some of our friends there, John Smith's been in there throwing some stuff. Maggie has shown up, Craig, to respond to your comment. But the thing that I'll say is that as far as Arkansas is concerned, our friend Wes Pruitt today, we're going to talk a little bit about protest and how they feel and what their thoughts are here in just a minute. But he said that it wasn't as big of a deal. It's a little overblown. He covers the Memphis area sports and Arkansas, that whole kind of conglomerate right in there. 4-Star Sports does a good job of covering all of that. And he's familiar with Silverfield and says that although this was a 4th or 5th option, that they still don't see it as a bad hire. Now, I think it is the lesser of all of the hires, but Arkansas in this situation is the lesser of all of the available programs. So it kind of makes sense to me. But similarly to Silverfield saying, am I going to get in hot water and should I make a jump? A little bit of smoke this evening around Penn State reaching out to Josh Heupel. What do we think about him considering, especially how Pavia handed their butts to them yesterday?
God, was that bad?
If you go back and look at Heupel's time in Knoxville, although there have been some highlights, and they were able to get over on Alabama, there have been some misses as well. How long will Tennessee put up with this mediocrity and the ability to just kind of punch up to the 10-2 range to get into the playoff? Obviously, they got in last year, and it was debatable and then Ohio State just kind of stomped them. Is it in Heupel's best interest if he gets the option to go to Penn State to make the jump out of the SEC and into the water with Ohio State and Michigan over there?
I think there's just a question of like how much different are the standards of Penn State versus Tennessee? Because I mean, Heupel got Tennessee in the playoff last year. Obviously, James Franklin got Penn State there last year and got fired this year. So I think if I'm Josh Heupel, I'm weighing like, do I just jump to a program that has the same level of expectations? I know what I'm getting myself into, and also, is it easier to make the playoff in the Big Ten than it is to make the playoff at Tennessee? Like, I think these are the kind of questions that now, like the coaches are going to have to ask themselves.
I think it's just pressing a reset button on your contract is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, it almost feels like a very similar job.
Yeah, it does.
It feels like a very similar job with very similar expectations. And I mean, and here's the good news for Heupel is that if this is getting a lot of smoke, like if Penn State really is like hardcore pressing the gas for Heupel, Tennessee, knowing how this whole coaching carousel has already gone and that most of the big names on the hot board have already landed and committed to other jobs, Tennessee is not a school that right now wants to go hire a new head coach. So they might give Josh Heupel more grace than he would be extended if this was any other season, simply because they don't have that many options. The reality is all of the coaches that were on the board are now at new jobs or have signed extensions. I will give Drink his credit. Maggie is really upset that no one is defending her, and I will. I just didn't have the chance, Maggie. Drink was a big name that was all over the coaching carousel and mentioned for a lot of other jobs, and he chose to stay at Missouri and build something at Missouri. Clark Lee is choosing to stay at Vanderbilt, signing an extension. Kurt Cignetti signing an extension. Who is Tennessee going to go get? So they're going to give Heupel a lot more grace this season than he might get any other time, simply because they don't have any other options.
Matt Campbell.
Could you go grab Bob Chesney instead of letting him go to UCLA, which is arguably a worse job than JMU?
Yeah, but like I guess that's my question.
Brian Kelly's available.
But
please.
Is Josh Heupel really that like underperforming at Tennessee? What was Tennessee in like the 10 to 15 years before Josh Heupel? Heupel has been right around that 8, 9, 10. You know, he had the college football playoff. Sure, he hasn't beaten Georgia, but he's 500 against Alabama. And again, it's weird, and I think this is also like that SEC expectation, right? Of like, is he at his ceiling? Is he actually going to be able to take us to the next level? Is he going to get us to that next, you know, is he going to be able to get us to the quarters, to the semis? And I would argue like this is probably the biggest challenge for David White is like, do we stay status quo? And I mean, Rob, you and I both, I think, had Tennessee at 6 or 7 wins because of the disaster that was the offseason with Nico leaving.
7, yeah.
Had some challenges. Yeah, they got to 8-4. And sure, it was disappointing, but like it was probably better than what most of us thought. So I'm having
we're not Tennessee fans, though. I mean, we
100%. Listen,
I'm that's not a diss at you. I'm telling like the reality is like.
Well, we don't know who Craig is a fan of because he changes it from week to week, but
this is also true. It's
also true. But the reality is I think for the most part, all of our fan bases have expectations that have been set by recent history. Tennessee's fan base does not have that. They have expectations that were set, you know, hundreds of thousands of years ago, and they still expect to be competing for a national championship every year. So it really does depend on who you ask.
Let me put you point this out, and I'll put my shocker statement of the night here. South Carolina has more recent history that has formed expectations than Tennessee. The Steve Spurrier era was only 10 years ago, and Tennessee won a national championship in 1998. Not saying South Carolina won that, but the expectations for South Carolina to compete to go to the SEC championship game were 10 to 15 years ago, as opposed to what almost 30 years ago, which formed Tennessee's expectations of where they're supposed to be. So yeah, it's been a little while. All right, here's a couple things I want to point out because we got our friends over here in the chat box, and we have a ton of stuff happening tonight as there's a lot of people in there. I want to remind you that if you want to win that free SEC Pretty merch, that's also in the chat tonight. And if you want to grab that link, it's there. It's also in the link in
Joey
my bio.
said I'm disqualified, so you all can
I'm
win.
winning.
All right.
I'm winning currently. So I'm gonna be all
I can't
SEC
pick a
prettied
team.
up.
Joey said you're out.
Casey, I'm gonna have to call the embroiderer and have him switch up the conference if Casey wins.
And I need it
All right,
big
look,
size.
Maggie
too.
wants to
This
know
is
if
a
she's
big
missed her
head.
drink apology. Maggie, I
No.
will lead
No,
off
Maggie,
by
I
saying,
gave it to you.
He got
I
$11
am-
million. He doesn't need an apology.
Maggie, we were wrong because
No,
we
we weren't.
strongly predicted that he was gone on the first train out of there to any option, to be honest with you, whether it was Penn State
but
or
here's the thing.
Florida
I didn't.
or Auburn. We predicted all of them, and we were wrong.
Not
No,
me,
we weren't
Maggie.
wrong. Okay,
I
so
never thought he was going anywhere.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
we weren't wrong though, because I bet you he had some conversations because Ole Miss just didn't pull out that new extension out of their backside just because they love him. I guarantee there were conversations on the planes and in Gainesville. So yeah, congratulations, you kept drink, but he also got $11 million. So good for him.
Is that an apology? It kind of sounded like
No,
Can we
Wait,
take a
that was
minute
an
here?
apology.
Can we take a minute here before we go to Genius? Before we go to Genius, can we take a minute here?
Thank you.
Who's even playing?
The SEC championship game. We've seen this matchup a bazillion times, and I think, John, that's probably why we're not talking about it as much.
Oh, cry about it. It's still going to be a good game.
It is
I'm
going to
not.
be a good.
I'm not crying about it. I'm
He's
not
crying
crying
about
about it. I'm not crying about
South
it.
Carolina was almost in it last
No,
year.
no, that's not even my point. We had options this year, guys. We had legitimate options. We could have had Texas A&M and Ole Miss in this game.
This is what
I'm
happens when
so
you put your
glad.
faith in Texas.
Thank you, Jesus,
But no.
to the University
Hang on.
of Texas. Hook 'em. I love you so much.
Look
Forever
at-
and ever.
High five, Joy. High five.
There she
Sunday,
is.
I bled burn orange. I just want
There
to thank
she
you.
is.
And also want to thank Alabama because I needed Lane to
Oh,
decide.
Jimbo's available for Tennessee too.
High five, Joy.
Oh,
High
that's
five,
a
Joy.
good one, Casey.
High five.
Yeah.
High five.
Okay, so since we're getting a little off the rails ish,
Okay,
it's time for
SEC
everybody's
question.
favorite
hang on.
segment.
Hang on.
Go,
John
yes,
asked the question.
we
What-
answered
does-
it.
But does the SEC championship still matter?
Yes.
I think it does.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't come at us with this crap again. Yes,
Yes.
it
Nope.
matters.
It matters so much that on SEC Sunday night, it took John Tweet Sports to get us to mention it an hour and 12 minutes into our show.
Okay, it's not
Okay.
our fault that the craziest coaching
Fair
carousel
enough.
in the last 10 years happened to happen.
Don't
this
use
week, the
facts
same
to
week
skew
of
my
the
argument,
SEC.
Joy.
Here's the point. Here's the final point we need to make of seriousness tonight before we go to It Just Means More
No
Genius.
seriousness. No
This-
seriousness.
This world that we are in, dictated by the calendar, causes us to ignore the product that brought us together in the first place.
There you go.
If the games are why we're here, if the games are the most important thing, if the games are why we have passion, if the games are why we tune in, why we tailgate, why we show up, why we're all here to discuss this in the first place, why in the world did I read the scores and it took 30 seconds and then an hour and 15 minutes later we brought up the SEC championship game and everything in between was about who is going to get hired, fired, and moved around in staff positions, and we have not talked about one pass, one run, one big stop, one turnover, nothing. We have talked no game material. And it's not just us. It's everybody in media across everything. You get a couple of snippets of highlights on ESPN and everything else. And then it's back to Marty Smith watching him age like paint drying on the wall as he stands in the lobby
Leave Marty
trying to
alone.
get an answer out of Lane Kiffin.
Hey, in the words, fire everyone. In the words of MBG, fire everyone. Whoever wrote this agenda clearly did not care about the games that were happening on the field.
Why?
I don't know. Ask the guy who wrote the agenda. Rob,
I will
why
say
didn't-
that I think a lot of the games this past weekend dictated the coaching carousel. So it
They
all
did.
is relative. It all plays a part.
But that's
the reality
stupid.
is
And some of us would rather not-
That
Some
is
of us
so
would rather not
stupid.
talk
That
about
is
Georgia
so
and Georgia
stupid.
Tech.
Do you understand that we only get 14 weeks of this? You, of all people, understand it, Joy. You've been on a different campus every week. We only get 14 weeks of this, and then the whole rest of the year, we sit around and fiend for more college football, and we talk about bull crap arguments about everything else that's happening in the periphery with with calendar and NIL and settlements and coaches and all this stuff and recruiting. And here we are muddying up the discussion in the middle of the season with these types of discussions. Save that crap for another day when we're watching the freaking MLB or something that nobody cares about instead of watching games on the field.
Don't give me a break.
Like Craig went from being worked up to now you being worked up. Like
I know. You got to calm down, dude.
All right, can I make an argument?
Too loud.
What
You
in
didn't
the
even
world?
mention preseason polls.
Yeah, rude.
I didn't. Okay. I want to throw this up here just for a second. CFB Home.
Oh my God,
Our friends
I
at CFB
wanted
Home
someone
had
to
this.
do this so bad.
I'm going to debunk this because I think that these stats that we have on screen, if you're listening on podcast, remember to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcast and on Spotify. But if you look at these stats, we have Billy Napier and John Summerall compared, and their statistics are almost literally identical. Their time in the Fun Belt before coming to become the head coach in Gainesville for the Florida Gators. However, I think from a philosophy, from a personality, from an approach to the game, you're getting two different people here. And just because they produce similar results in the Sun Belt, I don't think you're getting the same result. And as much as Joy and I would like for Florida to have a swing and a miss on this one, and I think probably Craig too, honestly, we might could all agree that we want Florida to swing and miss, but
I don't care.
Here's the thing.
I don't even.
I don't think they are. I think this is the best hire of the day outside of Lane Kiffin.
We've been talking about John Summerall for years to get a head coaching job, so now he finally got one. So,
Right.
I mean,
Guys, you know who actually was the biggest loser today, and we didn't even talk about him?
Who?
Kentucky.
They're
still
debating.
They've been waiting on Summerall, and they're over here not firing Stoops. And in the meantime, Summerall took the Florida job. They really, truly might be the biggest losers of this entire.
And they're
do you think if Kentucky
they're
and
actually
Florida,
stuck? And go ahead.
If Kentucky and Florida were both open, do you think he's going to Kentucky?
Offered both?
Yeah, like offered both. Do you think he's going to Kentucky over Florida?
I think emotion sometimes just plays a role in that. And I think he probably would look at Kentucky and say, like, I love this place, and this is not the way that it's supposed to be. And so I'm going to go, like, restore it to its glory. He wouldn't have that emotional tie to Florida. And, I mean, the reality is I'm going to get in trouble. How really good of a job is Florida right now?
It's
not great.
The reality is that
Florida and Auburn both are irrationally quick triggers, and he's going to get fired if he doesn't.
That LSU and Florida jobs both were open, and we could have both been going after the same coach, and that had really could have gone either way. And the reality is like that's not what happened. Like LSU stuffed you in a locker in the midst of one of the most dysfunctional coaching firings that we've ever seen. That speaks volumes about where the Florida program is at right now. So if you ask me right now, if John Summerall gets Kentucky or Florida and he has to pick, I think he takes Kentucky.
And you've already got a fan base. Like our friend David Soderquist from High Top Sports was kind of like, all right, I guess this is our guy. Like they kind of like summed up like Florida's response.
They're so disappointed.
Yeah.
On that note, Casey, do you have your readers? It's time for It Just Means More Genius.
I like how he went to his hat, like he thought.
And the first one is the most lengthy, and is going to have the most squinting involved. I don't know if this was in our chat or not. So if you have to read it on screen, I'm sorry.
Do this to me.
I'm sorry. The rest of them are much larger, but we'll start with this one.
Thank you.
I apologize for my.
This is good producing.
Slow internet that's lagging as I put these images up.
Who put you in charge? All right. I thought these posts were actually pretty good because of all the coaching carousel. So we'll start with obviously the main one. Lane Kiffin is begging Florida to let him be their head coach, says MBG. So this one comes to us from Gator Coop. Is he a South Carolina fan too? Interesting, and in my opinion, very likely to be true. That's always great when they start that way.
Always.
Theory on why Kiffin still hasn't announced. Obviously, so we're a little dated here, but it's currently 2:35 Eastern, 1:35 Central, and we're all wondering, when is Kiffin going to make this decision? Reports have come out saying that he's waiting on the results from the Iron Bowl, but I think no. what's really happening. People think Scott Strickland and Gary Condren, yep, is that his name? Don't know what they're doing, but they know exactly what they're doing. By giving Kiffin a strict deadline, the ball is in our court. Kiffin is desperately trying to get in contact with SS right now, begging to let him sign the MOU. He knows he doesn't have any more time for games, and he needs to lock down his dream job. This Summerall BS is all just a smokescreen to give Kiffin time to save face. Yeah, I can't see the rest. So
this is
perfect,
message board geniuses mixed with freezing cold takes. It's all in one. This is
it's a day old
swing and a miss. It is a swing and a miss, and it is as cold as ice. A day old.
Gary Condren is the #1 booster at the University.
I thought it was Condon. Yeah, I know. I read it wrong.
Oh no, not you, Casey. Rob.
I know, but I thought it was Condon. Oh, so I'm like, is it Condren? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Rob was like, who is that? That's who that is.
Yeah,
he pulls the purse strings of the entire athletic department.
Yeah.
So is Kiffin going to Florida?
Confirmed.
I don't know. We haven't seen anything about it.
Does LSU
real quick.
Yeah. Does LSU play the Swan next year?
You learned if you just add confirmed after everything, people will believe you.
There you go.
Exactly.
Is LSU at the Swamp next year?
I don't believe so.
You know where they are, though?
Opens up.
They're in Oxford.
They're in Oxford.
You know where SEC Pretty will be.
I literally
might be there too. Okay.
I have to go to Oxford next week, and I'm scared.
All right, we're moving on to Arkansas. Yeah, it's not a great hire apparently. So the fans are uniting to protest the hire. They came out this afternoon all with bags on their heads. What are they scared of? Anyway, the last John Gotti says if anybody has interest, we are going to be organizing a protest against the Silverfield hire. I want to clarify that this is a peaceful protest.
We do
not warrant violence. We'll be starting at noon outside of the Jones Center. I saw a video. It was peaceful, but again, they had bags on their head. What are they doing? Is it going to work?
There were all of 25 people, according to Pig Trail Nation, who came out for this protest. Again, we were told by our friend Wes Pruitt, so as we don't look like fools, that this was a very unsuccessful and
they can't even protest.
It does not represent the overall fan base and how they feel about the hire.
Question.
What?
Though. You say you have about 25 people at the Jones Center. Lots of unhappy Hog fans. Like, are we saying 25 is a lot? Like what's happening here?
I don't think we are.
It was on the boards though, Rob.
I can't.
That's the best.
This is not from the boards, but a Craig McMichael special.
Yes, this was shared by Craig, tweeted from Matt Stahl at MattStahl97. He says, AL.com can report that Alex Golesh does not have a public golf handicap according to the United States Golf Association, GHIN database,
that's already a win for Auburn.
Already.
It's good news.
It's good news.
But he's a hell of a fisherman.
Do you think we can get his tee time then at 1:30 on Sundays? Or whatever it was?
I think it's already full. It's already been filled from what I was told.
Is that true?
Yeah, I thought so.
You saw it
the next day.
By Galax Olesh.
Golesh.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay. I think we have one, at least one more, and a talking point here as well. Let's go to this talking point. This one's for Joy specifically.
Lyndon Blake at Lyndon Blake says all 3 SEC hires today: Golesh, Silverfield, Summerall, not Jimmy Sexton clients. Clint Dowdell guys. We got a little bit of tinfoil hat going on here. Is there a changing of the guard with the low-level SEC
I
hires?
fear that Clint Dowdell is still a CAA sports agent, so he still works for Sexton, like in Sexton's world. So
Yeah.
Jimmy Sexton is and always will be pulling the strings literally until he dies. He just sometimes will use other people to do it for him. Also, I mean, yeah, that's true. But this was obviously before the Lane news was confirmed. So a Sexton did indeed get hired today.
And Maggie did say that's because Sexton got his guy's contract extensions.
That is also, I mean,
100%.
the reality is like,
He's on vacation.
Jimmy Sexton won, and Jimmy Sexton was never going to lose. That's the part about this that like is so calculated and so behind the scenes. He was never going to lose this, and he didn't, because even with these guys, he still wins.
Incredible 30 for 30 coming for us in a decade. All right, last one, from the housewife. Little boy himself.
Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben with a picture of clothes on a hanger and some dry cleaning. Give him some props. It says Ole Miss even put Kiffin's clothes in the street.
That is just going to be like that new petty. That's going to be the new petty meme, isn't it? Like that's going to be like that new, like the grandma in the cage or something. Like
if I send this to you,
yeah. If I send this to you, you're fired or something like that.
Do we think?
I mean, the good news is he can afford new ones.
Yeah, 100%.
Does he tell Verge he needs to hop on the jet and go back and pick up that rack, or are we just gonna leave it laying there?
Layla, on your way down, can you make sure to go by and pick that up for me?
Okay, look, last thing here is we really do talk about the SEC championship game and what's coming up. Joy, talk to us about your postseason plans. You're gonna be in Atlanta next week.
Yes, I'll be in Atlanta. I mean, I live here, so that's one weekend I do not have to travel, thankfully. I'm planning on going to that game. And then obviously barring any craziness, I will be at some playoff game that an SEC is the host of at some level, more than likely in Oxford, Mississippi. So pray for me.
College Station?
I genuinely would rather deal with the coaching carousel for another 6 months than step foot in College Station for a playoff game. And I mean that with my whole heart.
Okay, predictions really quick for Atlanta next weekend across the board. Georgia gets revenge.
No.
Are we riding with the Tide?
Roll Tide.
Okay, those two words will never come out of my mouth. So it's go Dogs for me. I do fear that game though. I'm not insanely confident.
Georgia's definitely playing better than Alabama right now.
No doubt about it.
But it's
that
mental.
game just is such a mental game. That's what I was gonna say. It's such a mental game.
Dogs will be in white, and all I gotta say is Keely Ringo was wearing white when the Dogs knocked off the Tide. 31-27. Dogs on top. Kirby Smart and Gunnar Stockton with the Georgia Death March to end the game in the fourth quarter. 4 fingers up, baby.
I'm changing my pick to Georgia.
I love you guys, but roll Tide. Okay, let's be honest. Until proven otherwise, that's the direction that we're going to go here. John, I see you taking.
Hang on, I want to say,
Please
Joy, thank you for
write my name down as the king of the bad list, because that's where I like to live.
John, I would just like you to know, I always pick the Dogs. And that's
you talked me into it.
I always tailgate with y'all. I'm just saying.
Right. John
really
John
quick.
puts on an elite setup no matter where he's at.
Casey, just really quick, thoughts on Virginia Duke, and if
are we talking lacrosse?
Go Hoos!
I thought we were.
I'm not. I'm gonna close us down in just a second. All right, thoughts on Virginia Duke, and if Duke wins.
Oh,
what are we thinking about the ACC?
I absolutely love chaos. I think it would be wonderful if Duke wins, but you will never get me to root for them in any sport whatsoever. So I'm riding with the Clemson alum, Tony Elliott, Sage Ennis. I'm riding with Chad Morris's kid. I mean, there's so much. It's basically Clemson Jr. So go Hoos is right.
It really is. It really is. Let's see if my screen will show it. Bull City, baby. Bull City. We're going Duke all the way, and I want the chaos. I want as much chaos as possible. But I will say this:
what is Bull City?
Durham.
Yeah, whatever.
Get with it. Come on now.
I don't even know what.
Do you even South, bro?
Apparently not.
I didn't know it was Bull City until he.
If this was the Duke Virginia lacrosse game, I'd be all about
Okay,
this. But
fun fact: I went to Coach K basketball camp when I was in high school, and so I have a little soft spot for the Dukies in my heart. But
fun fact:
anyway,
he still wears his penny to bed.
Fun fact: his wife nearly hit me with a car. That's fun.
Come on, Joy. What's your fun fact?
She's a Duke basketball fan.
No, actually, my fun fact is that I grew up a Duke fan. My dad and Coach K were friends, so I legitimately had a reason to be a Duke fan. And last year, I went to the Final Four to support a friend who was on staff at Houston, and I wore a Houston shirt because I was legitimately pulling for Houston in that game for personal reasons. And the way that the Duke fans treated me that night, my dad and I looked at each other and said, we will never cheer for them again. And I stand by that. I will never cheer for Duke again.
Wow.
I wish nothing good for them ever.
Maggie, get out of the comments. It's not the time for you to be airing my fandom.
He's also probably a Yankees fan.
Hey,
I'm not a Yankees fan.
So I don't want
am
him.
a Celtics fan.
Red Sox.
All right, anyway. All right, let's get out of here. Here's the last thing I'll say is SEC Sunday night. Thank you to all of our friends. Thanks to Joy. Thanks to Casey. Thanks to our friends in the chat over there, John and Maggie, keeping it up strong, and so many other people there supporting. If it comes down to the ACC being left out because Duke wins, I will make a strong argument. Head-to-head matters.
City,
Miami
baby.
over Notre Dame. All right. This is SEC Sunday night. We'll be back on Tuesday night to break it down, and we'll see you next time.